Welcome back to Couch Talk, everybody. I'm Joe, and I'm here to talk about the movie The Call of the Wild. This movie is directed by Chris Sanders. He's most notably known for doing The Croods, Lilo and Stitch, and How to Train Your Dragon. He's also written a couple other things aside from directing, but those are most notably what he's known for in terms of directing. This is his first live-action adaptation, and it's based off of a book that I actually read many years ago in elementary school. I was kind of forced into reading it, but I did not regret it because I love dogs, and essentially this movie is about a dog. So what is this movie really about? Well, it starts off with this dog that's kind of very misbehaved. He's only ever known being a house pet up to this point. He has a lot of freedom to run around town and everything, but for the most part, he's just a troublemaker. And he winds up getting kidnapped one night because the crazy gold rush of the late 1800s, I believe. I might be mistaken, don't quote me on that. But the gold rush happens, and people find out that all this gold is buried up in the mountains, and they need to get dogs to pull sleds up there for them so that they can carry large quantities of whatever they find back. So he winds up getting actually stolen to be one of these sled dogs because he's a very big and strong dog. He's shipped off into the snowy mountains, where he's then kind of thrust into a world that he's unaware of. He sees snow for the first time, and, he winds up becoming a sled dog and learning to stop being so immature and irresponsible and kind of fit in with a pack. And across the entire movie, he learns about how to become his own man, essentially. He learns to stop being so immature and stop being a troublemaker, and he steps up and has to take care of not only other humans, but other animals, not excluding wolves and everything. And he essentially gets the call of the wild, if you will. I mean, the whole point of this movie is him getting in touch with his ancestors, his inner animal, and learning to survive without a master. But along the way, he meets some people that he really cares for, one of them being Harrison Ford. Now, Harrison Ford is the main human character of this movie. There are a couple other A-list actors thrown in there with very small roles. Like Karen Gillan is in this movie. She's more known for the Jumanji movies, and she's Nebula in the Avengers movies. She's in this movie for 5 minutes and barely gets any screen time. So, they could have picked anyone to play that part, and she wasn't even recognizable. The only reason I knew it was her is just because I was waiting to see her show up on screen. Cara Gee, I think I'm pronouncing that right, is in this movie. Not a lot of people know who she is unless you've seen The Expanse. She has a very heavy accent. I was really excited to see her do something other than The Expanse because I really like her as an actress. She's fantastic. And then the other biggest star in this movie is Dan Stevens. I've loved him since the movie The Guest. I thought that movie was phenomenal. I saw it 4 times. I bought the Blu-ray. I've watched it another 10 times since I've been home. The soundtrack, the choreography, the fight scenes, the story itself, it's all just so good. And I've been really waiting for him to kind of break out a little bit more. And he kind of got that in Beauty and the Beast, but you didn't really get to see him. You just heard his voice. So I was excited when I heard that he was going to be in this movie, and he plays the bad guy, and it's that old school, mustache twirling, cartoony villain. So I was a little disappointed with the way they handled him as an actor. I wish they got someone not as cool as he is. But really, this story is most notably about Harrison Ford and his bond with this dog. He narrates the movie even when he's not in it, almost like he's reading the scenes while we're watching the scenes from a book. You just hear his voice, and it is very soothing. I'd like to have him as my Google Maps narrator. Really, he's a troubled man. He drinks a lot because a lot has happened in his past with his wife and child, that he's kind of moved up here to the mountains where he can live a life of solitude and just drink his life away. And he winds up rescuing the dog. His name is Buck. I keep calling him the dog. And they grow a bond and go on an adventure together. And I'm not going to spoil why, because I do think you should see this movie. But they wind up growing a strong bond, and they help each other find themselves. He helps Buck find who he's truly meant to be, and Buck helps him kind of kick bad habits and go on this journey that he's been promising himself he would go on, and kind of find himself and get himself back on the path of fixing himself. Now, all that being said, I loved this book growing up. I actually read it a second time after elementary school just to prepare myself for this movie. I like the other movies that the guy, Chris Sanders, has done, although they have been animated. I was curious to see how his first take on live action would be, and overall, it's good. It's not amazing. It's not fantastic. It wasn't the dog movie of the year I wanted. It was true to the source material, but the problem I have with this movie, again, is It's very like serious in terms of like the messages of the movie, like alcoholism and loss of family and, maturing and becoming the man you're destined to be and all that stuff. But then it has like mustache twirling villains, and what they did with the dog with the CGI, I couldn't get on board with, because look, I don't mind the CGI. I heard a lot of people complaining that the CGI of the dog really took them out of the movie, and it didn't necessarily take me out of the movie. I get it. Like, this dog goes through a lot that would be really hard to use a real dog for. And I know they did it in Togo, which is essentially the same movie kind of. But the stunt work in Togo, although hard, wasn't as in-depth as what the dog in this movie has to do. I mean, the dog's going whitewater rafting. He's fighting a bear. He's fighting wolves. He's fighting other dogs. He's fighting humans. He's pulling a sled with 8 other dogs, and he's jumping into icy water to save drowning people. And almost every scene in this movie, he's doing something so extreme that you can't use a real dog because of animal laws. You can't harm animals on set of movies. It's against the law, and rightfully so. And then people were like, well, what about the scenes where he's not doing anything extreme? And even in the scenes where he's not doing anything extreme, he's still doing things that would be really hard to train a dog to do. Like, there's like one scene where the dog actually takes the bottle away from Harrison Ford because the dog recognizes that it's bad for him, which I don't know how it does that, but it does, and it takes it away from him, and he winds up like burying it, and as Harrison Ford is trying to get it back, like the dog's giving him like a side eye. Like the dog has almost the personality of a human that can't talk. Like he's giving him an attitude and like what he's doing with his eyes, and it's just not something realistically that a dog could do. And then even just normal scenes, like there's scenes where he has to get the mail. Like he walks into town, he just strolls on into town, grabs the mail, like does a bunch of like weird little things, like licks a block of ice, and there's a lot of choreography that goes into this dog's performance. That training a dog to do all this is going to be incredibly difficult, especially when you're not using a breed that's easily trainable. A lot of breeds like pit bulls and stuff like that, like they're very easy to train. I don't know much about this dog's breed. I'm pretty sure it's a mix, but it is a very big, large dog. And I think they just concluded that they could have probably used a real dog in like 1 or 2 scenes, but the other 80% of the movie would have just been CGI. So just make the whole thing CGI. And I'm okay with that. But the reason why I have a problem with the dog in general in this movie is his personality. It's almost like you're watching an animated dog movie where like it has like the human characteristics. Like when you watch an animated movie where the animals all talk to each other and they talk like they're humans. It's that kind of like characteristic in a very serious movie. It's, they want us to take it seriously that, Harrison Ford has a drinking problem and him and this dog are going to go on an adventure and find themselves in each other. But then you just have like a cartoonish dog. So it was almost like watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but instead of like, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like, that was like a cartoonish movie. Like, this takes itself very seriously, and then it has a cartoonish dog character in it. Like, you wouldn't put Scooby-Doo in this movie, but that's almost like what they put in this movie was like a Scooby-Doo type personality. Like, it was like almost human in a dog body. So it kind of pulls you out of it. But to be fair, it kind of was a kid's book, and it is a movie for kids, but it kind of just pulls you out when the dog's acting like it's a human rather than a very smart dog. So it pulls you out a little bit. But overall, I mean, I did really love the journey. I did love the dog. Like Buck, his character development is amazing in this movie. And he has a very good arc in terms of where he starts from and where he ends. You do love the fact that he's going on this journey with Harrison Ford. You love Harrison Ford's character. You want this dog to mature because in the beginning he is a little brat. He's breaking stuff. He's eating food off the dinner table. He doesn't, really care about anyone but himself. And at the end, he becomes one with nature and learns to fend for himself and, save all these people's lives and put others before him. So the movie is good. It has a very good message behind it and a lot of heartwarming moments. I thought the arc with both him and Harrison Ford were great. I like where the movie ended. It was a little different than the book. But, I mean, the biggest problem is really the cartoonish dog aspect. And, I know I'm almost contradicting myself because I love this dog and his journey. And I love Harrison Ford and his journey. And I love the chemistry between the two. I just don't like how the personality was kind of fake for this movie. I wish they used a real dog. It would have made the whole movie a lot more immersive and a lot easier for other people to get behind. So that's really my only gripe with it. I'm really looking forward to see what Chris Sanders does next, because he definitely knows how to tell a story with a hidden message behind it. He knows how to get the emotions out of characters and CGI dogs. And he knows how to make a very heartwarming movie. I hope this movie does well enough that it makes its money back at the box office, because at the end of the day, it does deserve it. It is a very well-made movie. And if nothing else, at least we got another dog movie to put on the shelf, because I love a good dog movie. I know everyone hates like A Dog's Purpose and A Dog's Journey movies, but they're just such feel-good movies. And anytime a movie comes out about a dog, I can't help but just get excited for it, because I have a dog, and it's just like, they really are man's best friend. There's actually a saying that I heard, it's like, you could throw your dog in a trunk of a car and your significant other in the trunk of a car, and 10 times out of 10, when you let them both out, the dog's going to come out excited to see you, your significant other's going to come out swinging. So if you ever want to test unconditional love, there's your answer. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Were you excited for this movie? Did the CGI turn you off? Or are you just sick of dog movies in general? Let's talk about it down below, and as always, I'll catch you next time.